I'm very happy, Barrister Fru, Barrister Besia, that I had lawyers who really understand the meanings of their words to have tackled this very complex issue. It's a debate that when you look at even the United States political race, you have those who have criticized Harris that whatever she's saying, she has just been told to say it. She really doesn't understand the technicalities of what she's proposing. But then I want us to move forward with this conversation to look at what is our interest. We cannot talk for the Palestinians all day. This is a Saudi Cameroonian born, whom Barrister Fru says clearly. Yes, you're going to. I'm giving the mic to you, Barrister Fru. Barrister Fru believes that this man is no longer an Amazonian. He finds himself at the hem of the UNG 79 UNGA 79 session, makes an address, a very lengthy address, cites conflicts, even those at his backyard, but strategically ignores the conflict. Let us even say the conflict between what they call les separatists. He should have at least said the separatists are challenging his government. This man didn't say it. And that's why Barrister Fru, Barrister Mbesia, Barrister Ghana, I don't agree with anyone who chooses to water down the appointment or brushes it as something that doesn't have meaning, the appointment of Philemon Yang where it is, because having a Saudi Cameroonian born, not showing any interest of his brothers dying at a stage, at that level, it's a diplomatic blow. I don't care what who says, but that's just my opinion. So I'm handing the mic. You have a lot to speak. I want you, if you have to react to some of the things that have been said by Stafro, I'd like you to do it a little bit very brief so that you can move on to Philemon Young's attitude, which is what is of great concern to us this evening. Please talk to us.
Thank you very much. I will not belabor the point on Palestine, but I want to make a complete disagreement with this issue, saying that Palestine, the issue of Palestine and that of Amazonia are the same. They are not. Israel was created in 1948, forcefully created. These were Palestinians who went on exile. If you read the Bible, the Jews went on exile, and not all the Jews left there. And those that were brought back to settle, and in 1948, they carved out a country that they belonged to and gave them as their own country. It's different from the Southern Cameroon was never created by any UN or by anybody. It existed before 1948. Let me finish. Yeah,
Yes, I understand that.
I just want to make that. I just want to clear that air. That there is no similarity in fact or in law between Palestine, the Israelis in Palestine, and Amazonia in La Republic of Cameroon, so to speak. Because if you make that comparison, you are saying that we were part of La Republic of Cameroon that was settled somehow. No. Having said that, let me come back to address the issue of Philemon Yang. Like you rightly said, Paddy, Philemon Yang does not consider himself a citizen of the Southern Cameroons anymore, because he is so hate the Southern Cameroon in such a way that he goes and makes a ridiculous speech in the United Nations talking about conflict areas in the world and forgets from where he's coming from. La Republic of Cameroon is in conflict with Southern Cameroon. They were at war. Why did he leave it out? I want to argue that maybe serious people in the United Nations will ask him in private, why did you cite conflict areas in the world? the war in Palestine, the war in Gaza and Israel, and the war in Ukraine, and you left out the war from where you are coming from. It's ridiculous for a human being. Well, he is not from the southern Cameroon, but he is from Cameroon, La Republic of Cameroon. Right now, he has taken he has taken his citizenship. He doesn't consider the southern Cameroon his country. Therefore, at the time that he was making that address in the United Nations, he was speaking to the world. He was voted by the world. He is representing the world, and he talked about conflicts around the world and ignore conflict in Africa. The only conflict right now in Africa, the Southern Cameroons and La Republic of Cameroon. What kind of human being is that? He is worse than his father, Solomon Tandem Mona, because at least his father stayed a Southern Cameroonian. He has chosen his citizenship. But in doing that, with hatred, wickedness aforethought, he forgot that there is a conflict. The only active conflict on the continent of Africa is in Cameroon. And he cited only Israel and Gaza and Ukraine. Let's not belabor the point. He will serve the 12 months that is there and will be the most ridiculous president of the General Assembly.
But Barrister Mbesia, and this is where I come to you with the mic. We've had this discussion about Philemon Yang. I understand that when I did ask the question during an interview with the president did not downplay the feelings of Ambazonians who express dissatisfaction with Philemon Yang's election, nomination, or selection. And just as though they knew like prophets, this is Philemon Yang that will mount a war stage, born by a Southern Cameroonian and a person that we cannot ignore in history, a man from Oku, at least his mother is from Oku, standing in front of the United Nations General Assembly pre-session opening address as president, talks about every other important thing happening in the world and chooses not to talk about over or more than 50,000 of his brothers who have been wasted in less than a decade. I would say just over 5 years. This is a great concern, and Ambazonians would really want to hear what you have to say.
Again, thank you, Paddy. This is what I have to say. Before I say it,
Yeah, but
see,
Mbesia, please. Mbesia, do me a favor. Try to just sit straight. You may want to move a little bit towards your left hand. Yeah.
I'm okay.
Try to, yeah, that's okay now. That's
Use my
okay.
phone.
Yeah, that's
What
okay,
I was trying to
please.
say is,
Try to
what I was
sit,
trying to say is
try to
this.
sit a little
When I
bit
say
straight
this,
and avoid moving, please, so that we can have a
okay.
good image of you. Good. Go ahead, please.
When I say there's an analogy between Southern Cameroon problem and the Palestine, I mean it. But the analysis, you find something very similar. Well, Mr. Fru agrees on now. That's an opinion. But let me go to what Mr. Barasan Ghana said. See, it's the same thing that we face in Southern Cameroon right today. Yaoundé tells you, we don't know who to talk to. Why? Because there's a government under Sako, there's another one under Ayabacho, there's another one under Anu. That's what exactly what Yaoundé says. And that is exactly what Brasa Ghana was trying to make us believe. There's no government in the United Nations General Assembly among the 193 or 95 members which does not have an opposition back home. Most of them have very violent opposition back home. But the United Nations talks to the government that is sitting at the United Nations. That's a recognized government. And I said earlier that since 2012, Palestine has been sitting at the United Nations as a non-voting member. Who sat there? Who has been sitting on that seat till today that we are talking, that they have been upgraded? It is a PLO. So it is not important to tell us that whether PLO is being opposed by Hamas or have this violent opposition. That's irrelevant. The recognized government of Palestine sitting at the United Nations is a PLO. Full stop. And if I can go back, I think I understand very well somehow. Hamas, which is now so much in threatening Israel, was the creation of the Americans. They encouraged opposition. Because according to them, they saw Yasser Arafat as a dictator. They wanted something that would counter it. And by that means they created Hamas. Hamas has won a city called Gaza in elections. The mainland is under the PLO. Whether they are killing themselves or not, as far as the United Nations is concerned, it is the Palestinian Authority that represents Palestine. So giving excuses that why they are opposed here left and right is simply like, for example, if they decide to go, if they decide to agree with Sako and say, well, this is what we want to do. Then they turn around and say, well, we know that Cho Ayaba is killing our people in Bamenda, in the northwest, part of your territory, so we cannot talk with you. That is a lame excuse. And according to Mr. Ghana, again, to reflect to our case, Mr. Ghana is so concerned with peace. No, that's what we've been singing here. No peace without addressing the root causes of the problem. What is the root cause of the Palestinian problem as we speak? It is the occupation of Palestinian land, illegal construction of houses that they will never destroy. So they cannot
By
do
some
that.
by Stambisa, if
Let
I
me
would
land now.
come in, no,
Let
no,
me
no. If
land,
I would
please.
come in, just give me a few seconds. If I would come in, there is a similarity and very slight differences in all of what you guys are saying. It's about intrusion, occupation, and let's not belabor the point so much. We can't speak for this
Yeah,
Palestine.
I was leaving it. I was leaving it to go to your question.
Narrow it down. You have just a few seconds to conclude on that. I want us to narrow it down to what really concerns us and Philemon Yang's involvement. Please. Thank you.
I was coming there exactly. The problem is that each time I have a microphone, sometimes you reduce it to 2 seconds to 1 second. No, give me the time to put my own points out. Coming to the so-called Philemon Yang, when I saw the topic when it sent out there last night, when I saw it, I was so happy that the topic UN General Assembly sessions, they did not mention Philemon Yang. And has been my problem all along. The issues we can discuss very, very well if we leave out names. Because the name of Philemon Yang to many people, including me, is toxic. So we start with Philemon Yang, we'll go nowhere. We'll not address the issues. So when you put other topic there, my concern was to address what United Nations General Assembly resolutions headed by whoever General Assembly resolution leadership headed by whoever, Philemon Yang, you or me, mean and how they arrived at. Once we get to that analysis, in person, we don't leave out the person, then we will know what we expect from Mr. Philemon Yang, or from you, Paddy, or from me if I'm appointed there. I looked through that thing. I find that all what Philemon Yang was saying there is not relevant to what is coming up now. Because by the official status of the General Assembly, their agenda is adopted at least 7 months before the session that Mr. Philemon Yang is sitting up there. They start with a preliminary agenda that will see what they will discuss for the next 1 year when Philemon Yang sits there. Then 60 days before Philemon Yang takes office, there's an official agenda adopted, 10 items, 5 items. This is what this General Assembly will deal with. And then it is adopted in plenary when it starts. The items from the secretary that will feature in his agenda
By some basic, I
adopted.
want to understand something. You are saying that whatever agenda has been conceived, doctored, and presented to Philemon Young to present as a puppet, he doesn't have a say. Or maybe the institution recognizing where he's coming from. He cannot include a sentence that talks about what is happening to his family members, that or his brothers or the nation where he was born from. I don't understand. Whatever you're saying,
Well,
actually, it's a good
try to understand. Try to understand. Let me make you understand. I have said his speech there that he made yesterday, 2 days ago, saying what he said, has no relevance on the agenda of what he will preside over the next 1 year. You can say
no.
anything he
My
likes.
interest is about the speech because that
Well,
should have
that
been
is
a
the speech
soundbite.
now. You're trying to
If the
you are
speech
trying to
is
make me
not
use your
important,
words. I've said whatever
if
he
the
said
speech is
that
not
when the
important,
speech.
why do you talk about other issues?
Well, you're just refusing to understand me. I've told you that 2 months before he takes over office, just like his predecessor, the agenda that will cover the whole period of his tenure is already adopted. The items to feature on the agenda is adopted 2 months before the session starts. In other words, the guy who went away, that agenda was adopted 2 months ago. Uh, the final agenda will be adopted on the 24th in the plenary session. That's not yet there. So what he says as an individual is not very important. And I go further. I researched and found what this session will mean. What is the theme for this 79th session adopted before even Mr. Philemon Yang comes? What is the theme of the General Assembly then? The theme is team, leaving no one behind, acting together for the advancement of peace, sustainable development, and human dignity for the present and future generations. This is adopted
Leaving
far
no
in
one
advance.
behind.
Listen to me now, sir. Let me make my point. I didn't disturb you. This is adopted in advance. He was not even there. If we can fit inside here, it will not be because Philemon Yang is there. If we don't fit inside this theme, it will not be because Philemon Yang is there or he hates us. That was
Vice
if we leave
Chancellor,
out
I'm
the
going
question
to ask you one
and discuss
question
the
now.
principles, that might
I'm
help us better.
understanding your logic. Barrister Mbesi, I'm understanding your logic. Before I give the mic to Barrister Ghana, I want to ask you a question and I would like your response to be slightly brief. The question I'm asking you is, based on the theme that you've highlighted, the other conflicts can be involved, but the conflict between the Cameroons cannot be in his address. That's what you're saying.
Whether he cites the conflict in Bakassi, whether he cites the conflict in Victoria, it is not going to feature the job because he cited. I was coming to learn because it has the General Assembly has 3 different sessions. A session can come up, they call it emergency session. For example, if something like what happened in Gaza happens, it becomes an emergency. A member state will propose it to be put in the agenda immediately. It overtakes all other things. It is not because Philemon Yang says it or doesn't say it. This is the theme for the year. The other items of the agenda have been adopted. So my point is not addressing Philemon Yang as such, but addressing the United Nations and know how it works, the General Assembly sessions, how they work. And I will
If
refer
that's
us,
really how
let me land
that's
this. And
how that's how the people ask.
I'll refer us to chapter 4 of the chapter 4 of the charter. It defines what the United Nations General Assembly can do and cannot do, how they can do it, how they cannot do it. So you
Understood,
can read all
Barrister.
that. It's on
Barrister,
you. You can read it.
your point has been taken. I want to move forward on that. Barrister Ghana, you're coming to conclude on that because you have not spoken on it. This is Philemon Young, Barrister. I respect Barrister Mbesia's opinion a lot, but I seem to feel like him, like many other politicians, would opt to downplay the importance of the opening address by telling us about the way the UN works. From my understanding and what the lay Amazonian or every other person listening now is saying that the way the UN works is that they despise issues of human life and dignity. They despise conflict that probably the Security Council members are not interested in, and they create some vague agenda where a president of the general session will pick and choose the conflicts to talk about, like Philemon Yang did, and then ignore the one for Amazonia, probably because a France is disinclined to have that discussion fostered. It's really I feel like sometimes I feel like not being civil with diplomats or politicians the way they look at certain things and want every common man to just think that way. It's unfortunate. Talk to us, Barrister Ghana.
And Comrade uh, Paddy, thank you very much for asking the questions you asked Barrister Mbessa. And thanks to Barrister Mbessa for taking time to, to belabor the explanations, to incisively try to explain what is happening with the UN General Assembly, to try to explain how the, pros, the procedural functioning works, and trying to explain how the agenda is set, and but more specifically and more importantly, trying to explain how the jigsaw puzzle of Philemon Yang potentially fits in that entire scheme. So I think I know Barrister Mbesa was saying, let's not talk about Philemon Yang, but I find it very relevant to talk about Philemon Yang so that we do not raise our hopes because Philemon Yang is there. Why do I say that? Let's look at the history of Philemon Yang a little bit. Philemon Yang came out of CPC Bali, went through high school in Southern Cameroons, attended the University of Yaoundé. Immediately, Philemon Yang graduated from the University of Yaoundé. He studied law there. He was appointed Assistant Minister of Territorial Administration. And he remained minister until 1984. Not too long after Bia came, he remained minister. And he remained minister in some very important portfolios, such as he was minister of mines and power for a very long time. Immediately he lost power as a minister in Cameroon. What next happened? He was appointed the Cameroonian ambassador to Canada. And he remained the Cameroonian ambassador to Canada for about 11 years. And what did he do as the Cameroonian ambassador there? He helped a lot to negotiate loans, try to have the West overlook a lot of the human rights abuses in Cameroon so that Cameroon could get loans from Canada and from other Western states. And so, again, he returned to Cameroon on about 2003, 2004, and he was appointed what? Directly was appointed as this as the Assistant Secretary General at the Presidency of Cameroon. But something that is very peculiar for you to note is that the same house that Mr. Ephraim Enoni stayed in Cameroon before he became Secretary General at the presidency was the same house that they put Philemon Yang in to stay before he was eventually appointed Secretary General and then eventually as Prime Minister there. Why do I bring that fact? You know, that house that Philemon Yang stayed in, as well as all other houses that he stayed in Yaoundé, which are houses that are orchestrated by the government there, you have to be very certain that French intelligence, because the president of Cameroon, we all know, is governed through the French embassy in Yaoundé. You have to be very certain that the French have bought all of those houses. So they know Philemon Yang as somebody who has been in power within La République du Cameroon, and from third, fourth, fifth string verifications from all their bargains of Philemon Yang, they know that Philemon Yang is not going to veer from the script. So before the government of Cameroon even puts Philemon Yang as a candidate to perform the ceremonial role, you have to understand, as lawyers, we understand the meaning of words. He's serving as a ceremonial president of the 75th UNGA General Assembly. For him to perform that ceremonial role, they know that that is somebody that, comes hell or high water, is not going to veer away from the script. So for all intents and purposes, do not in any way, shape, or form consider Philemon Yang an Ambazonian or a sympathizer of Ambazonian. The same thing as Estimuna, when he was in power, never veered close to any Ambazonian issue. Even when lawyer Dinka was locked up in Yaoundé and tried to get help from Estimuna, Estimuna ran as far away from Barrister Dinka as possible. Same thing with Philemon Yang. Now, the only hope that you have that Philemon Yang might someday embrace Ambazonian issues, you want to know when? Drum roll, is when power in La République du Cameroon leaves him. Just like Pamuna became a sympathizer of the Southern Cameroon's cause when power had totally vacated him, when he tried to seek audience with Biya and Biya would not even give him audience. That is when Pamuna became a sympathizer of the Southern Cameroon's cause. So Philemon Yang is there to serve first the interests of the La République du Cameroon and to serve his own narrow interest. So do not expect him again for all intents and purposes to give us even a no-look pass as to how we can navigate the system in the UN to bring our issue. I know Philemon Yang personally, and how I know him personally is going to end there. I'm not going to disclose any details beyond that. But he is somebody who is not and never going to assist Amazonia or assist our aspirations while he is in power within the corridors of Yaoundé. And Barrister Mbessa explained it very right that he is there to perform only a ceremonial role. He does not have that much of a force in deciding what the agenda is. And for the French to have concurred for him to be appointed the president of for this 1 year at the UN means the French know him to the T. They know him as well as they know their bare naked hand that Philemon Yang is not going to deviate from the role they send him to perform.